Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com. It's time for the weekly live Q&A. So a big hello and welcome to everyone that's joining in live or on the after show. So a big thank you to everyone for doing so. And a big thank you to my Patreon and YouTube channel members. You guys rock, and you are the reason why this show happens each and every week. So we've got lots of questions that have been submitted in advance by Patreon and YouTube channel members. And also, YouTube channel members can join in right now on the live chat, so you can become a member and join in on the action. You can also use that super chat function as well to send in questions, all of which help support the website, the YouTube channel, everything. It really makes a massive amount of difference. Everything keeps changing in the Google world, and so your support really does mean a huge lot to me. So big thank you to everyone. So I'll run through what I tend to do. So I will tend to jump between the pre-done questions and the live chats, and usually try and kind of mix them up a little bit because we've got quite a lot of questions today. See a few people already in the live chat. We've got Matt, Keenan, Caleb, Miles, Sasuna, and Baba Trolling. So big hello and welcome to all of you. As I said, you can become a member to join in on the action. Right, so let's start off with the one at the top of the ticket. Connor asks, with Warner Brothers Discovery potentially looking to sell Looney Tunes, who do you think would be the best suitor? As much as I'd love Disney to buy the IP, I think Netflix or Apple will be the front runners. Babak also had a similar question. There's a rumor that Warner Brothers may sell Looney Tunes. If that's true, do you think Disney should buy it? So there's been a lot of talk. This is because Warner Brothers cancelled. There was a movie that they were making, the Acme movie, and they basically they weren't going to release it, but they ended up selling it to another company, and they ended up putting it out there, and it's kind of a weird one. I mean, almost like putting it out for another company to have a go at with Looney Tunes. Now, these are Looney Tunes. This is what so many of us grew up with, that Warner Brothers, like, that big Warner Brothers logo and the Looney Tunes. And it's kind of like just so iconic to Warner Brothers. And then just to see the people that run Warner Brothers now have literally no connection with this franchise at all. They've been selling off. They sold off the movie. There's talk of them selling off potentially, and I think some other movie. They've removed all the Looney Tunes content from Max, and I'm not sure if it was I don't think it was a hugely watched brand. I do think that over the years it's lost its oomph. It's lost its power. And they might be just looking at it and going, look, the kids aren't just watching it. Because, today's kids have grown up in a different era. They don't get to see, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, those kind of things. Which is strange because as I said, Warner Brothers, if you said to me, like, what are Warner Brothers characters? Looney Tunes and like DC are like the main ones that come to mind. Maybe, kind of maybe think like Harry Potter kind of thing. I remember going to the Warner Brothers store. I think I remember going to the one in London. I think I also went to one in New York as well. And I think there was one in Sydney that when I was traveling there. And I even went to Movie World in on the Gold Coast, Australia, about 20 years ago, and had all the characters and stuff there. So I definitely associate Warner Brothers with those characters. So the concept that, and rumors and reports that they could even sell these characters off is quite insane to me. I'll be honest. It feels like almost like Disney turning around and saying, oh, we want to sell Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck off. Now, there are issues of, like, Warner Brothers are drastically in debt and they are looking to sell off assets. And maybe they're just looking at Looney Tunes and going, look, maybe we can't do anything with them. It's not working. Like the Tiny Toons Adventures reboot that was on Hulu, that didn't seem to do a huge amount of things. There's a lot of nostalgia at play, putting them into theme parks and stuff like that. I mean, this is where I do think there's obviously advantages for Disney, but I also could see Comcast. This could be a nice little win for Comcast to get access to some of these characters for theme parks. That's a potential of a suitor. However, I do wonder with the characters like the Looney Tunes is they are coming up to, I think it was like in the 1930s when I was looking early today, they were created in the 1930s. And so therefore the public domain for these characters is going to click in probably the next 5 to 10 years. It's the same thing that's going to happen with Mickey Mouse. It's going to be happening with Batman, Superman, Captain America, along with the Looney Tunes. We're going to see a lot of this from these classic cartoons. And so therefore that might reduce the interest in the franchise because of this. I know with like Warner Brothers as well, of they have a theme park in Abu Dhabi, and they've got the Looney Tunes are a massive part of that. They have a Warner Brothers hotel there with Looney Tune characters. It feels like so interconnected with Warner Brothers but there's also that disconnect where I don't think the people in charge there, I wouldn't necessarily respect it, but I don't think I think they've moved on from the idea that these characters don't work nowadays. But I could also say maybe they don't work nowadays because they don't seem to be trying very hard. They keep like leaning in on nostalgia and not trying to create something new. One of the things I liked with Disney was that shows like The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, etc., that was aimed at a brand new audience. That was a brand new audience that they were going for, the younger kids. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, all, Mickey Mouse Funhouse, all these different shows that they've done, House of Mouse, over the years. Disney has like consistently tried to make sure that the Disney Junior characters, Mickey Mouse, Pluto, those kind of things, still remain core. And Warner Brothers, I don't think did that. They tried doing it. I mean, I grew up in the Tiny Toon Adventures in the 90s, loved that series, and grew up watching Looney Tunes all the time, but I don't think kids do today. Let's have a look, see what we've got with some of the questions. I'll just keep on the Looney Tunes at the minute. Kelly says, could Disney buy Looney Tunes? Yes, but I don't think they will, since Mickey Mouse is their crown jewel. Can Disney Plus stream Looney Tunes via Hulu? Yes, via Hulu. I mean, internationally, it doesn't really, I think there's an advantage for Disney to get them because it would add to their kids' things, but there is an issue. They have done stuff together, such as Space Jam and Warner Brothers Animation, so that's there. Keenan says, to answer the question, I don't think they're going to sell it. It's been in Warner Brothers' entirety. I just don't think they look at it in the same way that we did. Babatron says, if it's going to be a big mistake for Warner Brothers Discovery if true. Kayla says, I'm not sure if Comcast would get Looney Tunes since they have animation and DreamWorks in their portfolio. Interesting enough, I fired up the Now app this weekend. We finished off watching The Penguin this afternoon, and we kind of were greeted with suddenly new icons for the Minions, which was like, oh, hello. Kate says, Keenan says, Kate, trying to get these two names. Sorry, you guys, I keep mixing them up. Has been associated with Six Flags theme parks, despite the fact that Six Flags aren't owned by Warner Brothers. I know that my childhood memories have been seeing Looney Tunes at Six Flags. Yeah. See, I've never been to a Six Flags. I think we drove past one in Washington, so I don't have that connection with Six Flags and Warner Brothers. So that's where the first time I ever saw Warner Brothers characters like in action was in Australia. You also said, I have a sentimental value on that since going to Disney parks and seeing Mickey Mouse was a premium experience, while Six Flags was affordable for everyday people. Yeah, I think that makes sense. As far as like Netflix, I don't think they would want it. I just don't think they would want it. Apple are weird. They don't seem to like want this kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I don't know if they would want it. Amazon would be the one I would put more scope on. Amazon wanting the franchise, because I think they would be, we can use that for kids stuff. I'm just not sure Warner Brothers will sell it. I think they'll check it out. I think they might license it rather than sell it. Keenan says, do you think that Percy Jackson Disney Plus series is a lot better than just turning it into films? I think obviously there are advantages to doing it with a series. They can tell the story maybe a little bit better. That's definitely an advantage for that. So I do think I've not seen the films, and I'm not going to watch those two films because I like the series, and I'm just going to keep it at that now. I think that's good enough for me. Miles says, what did you think of the trailer for Elio that was released on Wednesday? I really enjoyed watching the trailer, and I'll definitely be checking out the movie at my nearest cinema. It was okay. Didn't do a lot for me. I'm still not I will go see this one at the cinema because it's an original film and it's Pixar. And generally, Pixar don't miss. I think this one will be good. So I definitely going to go check this one out. Yeah, I do want to see Elio, but I'm not sure about this one. I think this one might be a grower. I don't know if it will come out the gate strong. I think there's obviously going to be a lot more connection now for people with Pixar, but I think this one's got this could do an elemental where it picks up steam as people like it, and it's going to continue to make money over the summer for months. So I don't know. I think they've got to do a little bit more advertising on it. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that one. Tim says, with ESPN launching on Disney Plus in Australia and New Zealand this Wednesday, do you know if the ESPN live channels will still be on Fox? Yes, according to the press release, they will still have them available on other platforms as well. Keenan says, will Disney take a break from making sequels at some point in time? Never. I think this whole concept, and I see it so much on Facebook of like people going, Disney shouldn't do sequels because that's all they do, and it's like, yeah, because they work and they make money from them. Disney showed that when they made original films back to back to back to back, people didn't like them so much. People didn't get into them. They do love making original films. They like making new franchises, and they have to keep doing that because otherwise things would get stale. They need the next big franchise to come along. Frozen, Encanto, Moana, they were all new. They're all new franchises in generally, but but they also realize there's money to be made from sequels. People like that, especially with Disney characters, and like with their movies and so on. They are mixing it up a little bit, but you're going to get that with a mix of sequels and remakes and originals. That it's just business, and right now it definitely feels like they're leaning back in a little bit more on the established franchises, because they got burnt a bit by doing too many originals. Personally, I wouldn't mind, especially with their animated films, either Pixar or Disney do one original and one franchise each year. So this year we've got Zootopia 2 and Elio. I think that, and then next year we've got Toy Story 5 from Pixar. We don't know what the other one is. I think that would be a good way of doing it, is do one franchise, one new, one franchise, one new. And I think that gives you that thing of something being that you recognize, but also giving you new stories as well. I think that might be a good way of alternating. And it says, how long do you think a series should be given a chance before it gets cancelled? And how long should a series be kept on Disney Plus after it gets cancelled? So let me know in what you guys think on this question as well. So part one, how long do you think a series should be given a chance before it gets cancelled? That is very much, I think, on a case-by-case basis. We're kind of in that weird zone of a lot of shows now we don't get to see as long. Like the days of them making 20 episodes and then doing another season, and therefore you've had 40 episodes, even if they got to 2 seasons. Well, now they don't tend to get that far. We're tending to looking at 10 seasons or 10 episodes. I do think if they're doing shorter seasons of 10 episodes, I would like them to be a little bit more okay, this did all right or did good. Let's give it another year and see if it gets on, and kind of go from there. I think for comedies, I think with sitcoms, I think they pull the plug too early. I think with sitcoms, people take a while to gel with the characters. And again, because there's less episodes than there used to be for big shows, I think with comedies, I think they pull the plug a little bit too soon. I think they need to let them grow a little bit more. Sitcoms are most sitcoms like Seinfeld and stuff would have been cancelled in today's era because they didn't do very well at the beginning. They need time to grow. Drama series are a little bit different. I personally do like limited series. I like the idea of them doing 6 or 10, 8 episodes, even 3 or 4 episodes, 6 episodes, whatever it is. Have a concise story and just do that and then get out. If you're going to do a procedural show, then that's when it's a little bit different. But I do think, as regards to how long should they be given a chance, I mean, I do think now 2-3 seasons would make sense if it's doing well or doing average. If it's doing average or well, maybe give it a little bit longer to get going. I mean, there's no stupid point of saying if a show comes out the gate, does really bad in viewership, and the viewership keeps dropping week on week, and it's just showing that audience just doesn't like this show, I can see why they cancel ones after the first season if the viewership is maybe well under where it needs to be, hasn't done very well. That's different. As far as how long they should be kept on Disney Plus after cancellation, if there's a complete story there, I think they should just stay there indefinitely. I don't know. I think it really depends to me of how badly it's performed. If it's been like, you know, maybe a really bad show, audience didn't like it, critics didn't like it, the streaming numbers are really bad, then you might as well just trim it and get rid of it. If there's a little bit of interest in it and it did all right, maybe give it a year or two. Let's see here. Don't worry, Keenan. It's my reading of the letter. It's purely my fault for this. Don't think anything of yours. This is just purely me. Keenan says, I guess John Lasseter shouldn't have cancelled Disney Tunes sequels to original films since they would never stop making sequels. Disney Tunes was a very difficult situation. I think they were like essentially like straight to video movies rather than straight. I think Disney's realized now they'd rather just put them out in cinemas. Essentially, the Disney Plus movies became the straight to video ones, and I think they've realized their mistake of like, no, we just need to do big ones. The one and only Tinkerbell says, if it's an expensive show, they could cut the budget for the second season if it did okay. That's one thing. I do think, again, you're bringing out the budget is a really good thing, I think, because there is a difference to me of if they're making a show like Agatha, let's say take Agatha All Along, and that costs 35 to 40 million for them to make, right? That's quite still an expensive show. But when you compare it to like, say, Secret Invasion or The Acolyte, which is probably north of 200 million, you can see why making that second season or third season of a show where it's done that badly and it's cost them that much, that becomes a problem. Whereas if you've got a show, I don't know, you're making it maybe 10, 15 million, you can start being a little bit, the cheaper the budget to begin with, the easier it is for them to keep going because the viewership isn't as expensive. You've got to look at, if you've got Secret Invasion and you've got Agatha and you only watch one episode, the amount of money that was spent to make that view happen is drastically different. And I think budget is, but I think they've also got to get their budgets under control. I think this is why we are probably not going to see any more Star Wars series after Ahsoka. I think they're going to go back to movies. I don't think we're going to see Star Wars shows after Ahsoka. I think they're going to wrap that show up. We'll probably get animated ones, but I think the days of us getting live action series, I think they're going to be done. I think they're going to go back to cinema. I think they're just too expensive to make on the scale that they need to make them with the budget. Marvel, they can get away with because they can do smaller characters. And they've shown with Echo and Agatha and probably Daredevil that they can make these shows on a much smaller budget with more humanized characters. Candace says, if Disney does their original, the budget needs to be small so they can recoup the box office. There is that, but also sometimes you've got to swing for the fences. If you're going to be doing a brand new original, I don't know, say you're going to be doing a big, massive 200+ million movie and it's full of special effects and it's a massive, just a big franchise, and that's the whole point of it. They've got the John Carter kind of effect. Sometimes they've got to take a swing and they're going to miss occasionally, but I don't think necessarily of like doing short, smaller movies. I mean, I would definitely say like recently, like the Electric State or the Electric Slate. I can't remember what they wanted. The one from Netflix. I watched it last weekend. I enjoyed it, but it's just a popcorn flick. That was, I think, north of 300 million, and I mean, they definitely spent some money on it, and they're trying to create something with it. But that again is, if you are spending amount of money on that, it has to be much better, I think, with the plot and all the rest of it. Matt says, do you think they'll do more original live actions for Disney? Yes and no. I think you're going to start seeing the return to some smaller movies, like we're seeing, like with Freakier Friday, and maybe the Princess Diaries and Romeo and Micho's, I don't know, high school reunion 2 or whatever it is. I think you are going to see a return of those smaller films. I think Searchlight and 20th Century are going to be the ones doing more of the live action stuff. I do think we're going to get a lot less live action remakes moving forward, especially after this weekend with Snow White. I think they're probably going to park these for a little bit. I think Moana is going to be the next big one, and I think they're just going to ease off that. I think they've cooked that kind of thing a little bit too much. I think they will cut back, but I do think they'll do originals. Kinney says, I plan on watching Snow White on Tuesday because it's $5 at my local theatre. I will do some homework for the next show on my thoughts about the movie. Yeah, go see it. I mean, my wife did say to me yesterday, she goes, do you want to go see it this weekend? And I said, do you want to see it? She goes, no. And I'm like, I don't really... I'm going to watch it when it comes out on Disney Plus or digital, but I will say Snow White is not one of my favorite animated movies. It was old when I was a kid, and it was never it's not a great, I just don't really have, I think I've seen it a few times because obviously when I was a kid, I just don't have that thing for Snow White. I do like the Seven Dwarfs, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train roller coaster is fantastic, but I don't really have a lot of interest in this film. I was going to be like, should I go see it? Should I not? And I had some other work I needed to do this weekend, and I was just like, you know what? I'll wait. There's just something about this movie which I'm just like, oh wait, I just don't want to. I'm just not that bothered about it. Miles says Disney live actions could take a 50-50 approach when it comes to original and franchise. Yeah, I think so. Barbara Traveling says, should Disney make a sports center channel for Flagship? Maybe. I mean, it would make sense to, or just do whatever. I don't really know how it works. Let's see what else we've got here. Kelly says, I also agree. Warner Brothers licensing out Looney Tunes to Netflix, Prime Video, and Disney, but not selling it. It would make sense. He also added, Mufasa is what the recent example of being a sleeper hit. However, I saw it coming when I saw pictures of Indian movie goers packing the cinemas for Musa. It was a really solid performance, really. It's a really good... It shows... I did try and start watching it the other week, but one of my dogs goes crazy every time they see an animal on the screen. And I put it on, and we didn't get through the opening minute before she was barking at and I was just like, this is just not going to work. So I still haven't seen it, and it's down to my dog. That's the only reason I've not seen it. The one and I think about says, I'm going to go see Snow White tomorrow. I love the animated film. It's one of my favorite, and the trailers for the live action version look magic. I hope you enjoy it. I really do. And I hope it does sound like a lot of people have been enjoying it. I pretty much can tell that I will probably like the live action version because I don't have that connection with the original. And it's probably going to be like, oh, this isn't as bad as I was expecting. But I'm really glad people are enjoying it. It's just, again, as you said, if you love the original one, that's one of your favorites, that is a really cool thing. But for me, I'm not so keen on that one. Let's see here. Matt says, I think you should get comedies for at least 2 seasons before they make a decision. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 seasons is there. I just realized I have got a poll going today where I did ask you, who do you think could buy Looney Tunes? 67% of you think Disney, 19% said Netflix. It's funny really, because I think I would have gone with probably Comcast at the top, then Amazon, then Netflix, then Disney. I don't see Disney getting in on that at all. Let's carry on with the questions. Khaled asked, reportedly, American Dad will end its first run episodes on TBS. In addition, Deadline reports that it's finalizing its return to Fox. What are your thoughts? I'm not surprised that American Dad is continuing. I had little doubt that it would continue somewhere. I did wonder if it might just move to FX or just to Hulu. I didn't really think it was going to get cancelled. I think TBS, obviously Warner Brothers, want to save some money, so they don't want to be spending money on that one. So I definitely think that's something. Fox taking it on was a bit of a surprise. I thought they were moving away from doing like 20th century television shows, but maybe they were like, American Dad's a really good show. And also I think Disney obviously want to get that extra cheese, extra bit of money, but also American Dad is still going to be on TBS, I think, till 2030. It's still licensed out to other platforms and stuff. So it's not like they can do it as anything exclusive. Internationally, though, here in the UK, American Dad, the new episodes arrive directly onto Disney Plus, though they do have licensing deals. I think it's on ITV as well here. Kelly says, what are your thoughts on Disney announcing Coco 2? I love Coco. I'm more than happy to see a second movie, see him more of a character. It does feel a little bit like it was like, we need to make a big announcement and we're going to do Coco. I was like, well, it's 4 years out. Did we need to know about it now? They could have told us in 2 years' time. I don't really see why we needed to know about it now. It was literally on the lines of they needed something big for the annual shareholders, and that's what they gave us. Babak says, do you think that other shows like Family Guy should also get its own stream, or should they add more general playlists like an adult animation one? The problem I think they've got with Family Guy for the streams, first off, streams are only available in the United States. So therefore, you've got the whole Hulu situation. So putting a stream for Family Guy is difficult because you need to have a Hulu subscription to have it. If they can work that out, so if you have a Hulu subscription, you get access to a Family Guy and a Bob's Burgers and I think it would make sense with the amount of episodes that they've got just to keep rolling them. If they can launch these channels internationally, 100% do it. I think that would make total sense for them to do that. Elio says, was there anything not discussed during the annual meeting of shareholders that you wish there was? If so, what? I'd have loved an update on the current situation of what's going on with Hulu and Comcast. I'd have loved an update on ESPN Flagship, an update on the NFL deal that they're kind of trying to work out. Those probably were the bigger ones. I think that was for me. I was expecting something there to be. It did seem a very quiet annual shareholders meeting. It was very quiet. Didn't really want to ruffle the feathers. I mean, the stock prices are all over the place, but because of the turmoil in the market, it's kind of like the Disney stocks dropped. Well, it feels like everything's dropped. So I don't think Disney really. I think they went very quiet. And they also didn't have to deal with Nielsen Peltz this year. Tim says, with ESPN launching on Disney Plus in Australia on Wednesday, will Stephanie's Places be available on ESPN at the same time? I don't know how it's going to work in Australia yet. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. Dana says, with the making of the Power Rangers, do you think they will release all the previous Power Rangers movies, Power Rangers shows? I think there's a very good chance. The fact that they're all seem to be on YouTube, it depends. I mean, I personally think they made that mistake with Doctor Who, where it's like, if you're going to do the original one, at least get the do something new, get the old ones on there as well. Yeah, I would, or at least get some of them on there. It just makes sense to it. Or at least pick the best ones. Whatever the big. It's kind of strange with Power Rangers because over the years, so many people have kind of got into it. They're all kind of in that different area, different shows. Babak says, if ESPN buys NFL Media, do you think it will include it in the launch of Flagship? Yes, definitely. That's kind of a major selling point for Flagship and having like Red Zone and stuff in there. Miles says, will the new trailer for Ella McKay debut during the Disney Cinema panel in 2 weeks? I to be honest, I forgot that movie was coming out. Possibly. The thing is as well, and I feel like I say this every year, CinemaCon isn't for us. CinemaCon is not a San Diego event. It's not a D23. It's not for the general public. It is for the people that own the cinema chains, for the people that are selling equipment, for selling food. It is all about it's a business event for cinemas and studios, and they're trying to obviously butter up literally the the execs of these studios to try and get them to watch it. So they're going to see lots of previews, they're going to see a lot of stuff over it. There probably will be a few trailers that come out and a few sneak peeks. Disney will probably put out something, but again, CinemaCon is not for you and me. It's for cinema owners, and it kind of is. So it's a bit of a weird one. People get a little bit carried away, I think, sometimes with expectations for CinemaCon, and then are disappointed when we don't get to see what the people saw there. It costs like $1,000+ to go to this event because, again, it's for business. It's not for you and me to go to. Marv says, could Zoe Saldana's recent Best Supporting Actress Oscar nomination boost for the upcoming Elio? Yeah, I think it'll help. Can't hurt. Matt says, when will Disney Plus add more collections? I wish I knew. It does. Again, we talked last week about Disney Plus coasting. Definitely feels like that. It's actually the 5th anniversary of Disney Plus launching here in the UK this coming week. So that's going to be interesting to see. Again, I think we're at a point where we're just waiting for ESPN, Flagship, and Hulu to sort all that out before we get like a new look or a new version of Disney Plus. We've been waiting a long time, but the lack of collections being added to me is I just don't know what maybe they've got a new way of doing it, and therefore that's why we're not getting any. I don't think in the UK we've hardly had any new ones for a long time. Elliot says, are you planning on watching Good American Family? If so, are you watching it? What are your thoughts on it? So, Good American Family here in the UK, we don't get it till May. They've decided that what they're going to do is they're holding all the episodes until the series is like wrapped in. So I think it's 2 episodes or an episode a week now being released everywhere else. So by the time it comes out in the UK, all of the episodes will be out in Canada, and America and stuff. So I will watch it, but it's a good couple of months away from me. Thank you, Derek, for your super chat. Thank you so much for your continued support. You are fantastic. What streaming services, both pay and free, you think might not survive this year? I think I definitely think, to me, Stars Play or Lionsgate Plus, whatever it's called wherever you are, because it keeps changing name. I think that one is at risk of getting swallowed up. I do think as well, I think like AMC Plus, the Acorn, all those little ones, those are maybe at risk. I do wonder with some of these free ones of how many of them, the viewership has to be high enough to get the advertising. I do think we could see a little bit of crush down in some of them. I don't know about. I'm still a little bit questioning of whether or not Paramount Plus, how long that's going to survive. Once obviously they've got to get that deal sorted with Skydance. Whether or not I could see them merging it in with Peacock Now TV at some point. But yeah, those are going to be the ones I'm going to think really. Again, thank you so much for your support, Derek. That is fantastic. Matt says, with Solar Opposites ending soon, they will make a new adult animated series. They probably will do, but again, less is more. That is the Disney way right now, and they might feel like they were making too many shows, and that might be why they've kind of cut it back a bit. Marv says, in the trailer for Elio, the title's character is pronounced Elio. Oh, Elio. How did you pronounce it? Elio. Elio. Yeah, Elio? I don't know. You've got me maybe you're thinking now. The thing is as well is with these things, it depends on how you see it. But Elio? Yeah, Elio. I don't know. I've lost track now. So soon says, when do you think Disney would be able to buy the Looney Tunes? I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they would want to spend that money on them. I mean, I could see them doing a deal with Warner Brothers to license the characters. I think that would be a nice big zone that they could add in. But it would definitely help with kids stuff, maybe. I don't know. It's the fact that Max removed it. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Kara says, I didn't watch the live stream of the Disney's annual shareholders meeting since I was doing lab for online class. From what I can tell, there was nothing newsworthy. No, well, the big thing as well is there was a couple of questions at the beginning, like from some shareholders that they voted on. They were pretty much kept pretty short, sweet. There wasn't really anything like groundbreaking. I think there was something there that they wanted. One of the shareholders had requested them to come away from LGBTQ stuff, and that got rejected. Because again, they don't want to be controlled by whatever the shareholders, one shareholder that doesn't agree, kind of thing. There wasn't the random questions. The other thing that Disney are doing, and they did this they've started doing this now, of they no longer allow the shareholders that do put in their requests for their Q&A. They're all like read like through AI. So what that means now is they all have to be submitted in advance. So I think that means that Disney can slide through and pull out the ones that are the crazy ones and not ask them. But also it reduces the chances of them being asked, like if you get some random shareholder asking something inappropriate, this new way they're doing it allows them to control the narrative a little bit easier. I know there's some people that don't agree with what they're doing. I think from the business point of view, it makes sense for them to try and protect themselves a little bit from crazy people that, buy shareholders. And, just because you buy a few shares or a few thousand shares, whatever it is, it's like, if you don't like what the company's doing, sell your shares and go find a company that you do like. That's, to me, that kind of thing. If you don't agree with a company of what they're doing or how they're doing it, sell your shares, put that money in somewhere else. You obviously don't agree with it, but trying to force them into doing what you want, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. Miles says, if Stars doesn't survive this year, could Disney Plus license out the shows from the streamers such as Outlander? I definitely could see Lionsgate licensing out those shows. Elio says, yeah, considering the drama of Pelts last year, I don't blame them for keeping it low-key. I was disappointed that there was no Hulu final news. Yeah, it was a bit weird. It was definitely a little bit weird. Elio, what's wrong with me with my name today? I'm going to get my teeth in. Aaliyah says, I'm a shareholder. I have no idea how to submit a proposal or a question for the annual meeting. I should try researching it, and it's a mystery. I think you should have had an email as a shareholder, and you then get a special area that you can log into and watch it. So yeah, you should have had some kind of confirmation asking you of how to vote, and there would have been information in there on how to submit stuff, I would imagine. I don't own shares in Disney. I did look into it a few years ago, but when I did a little bit more investigation into it, I would then have to keep telling you and everyone that I'm a shareholder in the company when I'm doing this or something. So it was just like, that's going to get it really complicated. So yeah, so it was like, wow, that's going to make it very difficult with doing what I'm doing. Keenan says, we don't talk about Bruno was number one on the Billboard Hot. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why Pixar decided to do a sequel. I think it's just the fact of how well Coco does on Disney Plus, how well it does at the theme parks. It's just doing very well. Matt says, do you think Disney will make Disney Channel original movies? Yeah, I mean, they've got like there's a new zombies one coming up. They're still going to make them, but they're only going to do one or two a year. There's not going to be a huge amount. Let's see what we've got here. Matt, this was a fantastic question. Do you think that Darth Vader will be in Star Wars Andor? I want to say yes. I would love him to be at least some kind of in there somewhere, because this second season is going to run straight into Andor. But obviously we didn't see Darth Vader until the end of Rogue One, so they might not do it. But I would imagine there might be a scene somewhere where Vader and Krennic do something. I don't know. I would hope so. Yeah, that's what Keenan. That's what I thought about when he said about we don't talk about Bruno was from Encanto, not Coco. I was like, yeah. You don't remember. Bubba says, do you think ABC will get more sitcoms? I think we're going to get a few. I think they have realized there is a gap in the market. There is space for them. They're cheap to make. And it's just, I think it's difficult now making comedies. Comedy is weird now because I think we all want something to laugh at. We all want something, to chuckle at. But comedies in a weird situation because everyone's so split. What people can laugh about, what people can't laugh about, and I do find like the internet has kind of like there's certain videos and stuff that I watch. I'll watch like Jimmy Carr clips. I also quite like the OG crew, Beck. There's all these different ones that pop up on Martin and Beck. These kind of things pop up in your feeds that that's where they make you laugh and stand-up comedy, etc. I think sitcoms, some of them, if they go a little bit too vanilla, then nothing really is that funny, but also they can't push the envelope enough. I think we're in a bit of a weird situation with sitcoms. Keenan says, since Disney Plus just launched the Simpsons curated playlist, which is the first that a show would get their own 24/7 curated playlist, how often will we get limited time curated playlists? I don't know. They did say in the press release that they're going to be adding more. I think it makes sense for them to do it more so on long-standing shows that can just be on repeat. I don't know if something like Grey's Anatomy would work because you kind of need to know what's going on a little bit in that season. But with The Simpsons, you could watch episode 5 from season 10 and then go on to, I don't know, season 35, episode 12 in no particular order. And it doesn't really matter. You can pick up an episode of Simpsons from any season at any given time and you will know what's going on. They're all very like evergreen. So that's obviously something I think they need to be aware of. Kelly says, when John Cena went off on the fans during Raw about how they were toxic, did you feel he said what a lot of actors in Star Wars and the MCU feel about them? I mean, that was a great promo. I think there is an element right now of we're in this weird zone. I don't know if we're coming out the other side a little bit more where I don't know if the studios and the actors and stuff have got a little bit better at like essentially ignoring the internet. I think they don't get rattled up so much the same way. I think some of them do, especially maybe some of the younger ones. But I think some of the older actors have very much realized that you just stay off social media and these problems tend to go away. Bubba Trying says, do you think Disney will make a 30 for 30 playlist this year? Maybe. I don't know. They might want to keep the ESPN live streams just for like sports, so they get you to upgrade. Dana says, so with Fraggle Rock on ice on tour, what are your thoughts on Disney working with the Jim Henson Company and bringing their programming to Disney Plus? I'd love them to do something with them. I'd love them to get more library content on Disney Plus. It is severely lacking. We're not really getting that anymore. However, they've already done a reboot of Fraggle Rock. I haven't watched that. I do remember that. I watched that show so much when I was a kid. I just, again, don't think that these shows pull in the views that we think they do. I think people go for the nostalgia thing. They watch an episode or two and then they never go back. If the Muppets was a hit, maybe, but I don't think it was. And that's why I think we've seen a real drastic reduction in the amount of library content being added. So we've got 2 more pre-done questions and then we'll be live for the rest of the show. Matt says, we're shifting gears, get a season 2. I think so. I think he did pretty well. I think that, again, Tim Allen appeals to a different audience that they're trying to go after. I hope so. Looking forward to watching it. It's not out here on Disney Plus in the UK. We've not had the list yet for what's coming out. I'm hoping it's not tomorrow because I'm going to be out. Usually, if it ever comes out, it's usually when I'm on a train. Bubba Tony says, do you think I'll be able to watch ESPN Flagship on Disney Plus with a Hulu Live subscription? I would imagine if you've got a Hulu Plus Live TV, you are going to get a Flagship included in that. I think that's because it is a premium offer and all the cable companies are going to be offering it, so it makes sense too. Right. Let's keep this. Now we're going to be on the live stream, so keep sending in your questions. Elio says, yeah, I have received the info for voting and completed it without an issue, but can't seem to find out how to propose. Probably buried somewhere. So kudos to those who get it through and less wacky. There's a few weird ones. Mara says, do you think that Disney and Pixar's upcoming film Elio will have a cross promotion with either Fortnite, Rocket League, or Fall Guys owning them having a 10% stake in Epic Games. I wish they actually merged those into like be a lot easier having one startup. Because the Rocket League, like the Rocket Racing, is a little bit like not as good as Rocket League. Fall Guys, I really enjoyed when the Fall Guys stuff got added into Fortnite. I did try downloading it, but I didn't want all these different apps. So I think it would, with regards to having, it would make sense for them to do something. I don't know about, I mean, Fall Guys makes a lot of sense. Rocket League, I don't know if that would work. I mean, if you did an Elio style car, but maybe if it was a cross purchase like with Fortnite and with Rocket Racing, I don't know. The trouble is with Disney is they don't tend to like with Fortnite. They don't like some of their characters wielding shotguns and machine guns, and that's where some of the problem comes in for these characters. Whether or not they want a little kid called Elio running around with rocket launchers and machine guns. Now, obviously, you can do that with other characters like Mr. Incredible. So they obviously have shifted their focus a little bit. But on Incredibles, I've got Mr. Incredible, but they haven't done Violet or Dash. So that might be, they might have a rule of they can't have the kids with the guns. That might be, so maybe in Fortnite they can't do something. Kenneth says, I think ABC will have sitcoms, but they will remain after within the Tuesday, Thursday slots, since Monday and Fridays are usually kept open for sports. I think they know they need a couple. Elio says, my mum and I started streaming Paramount Plus with Showtime because of March Madness, local live. Disney Plus really should do that for local ABC live airing. Didn't realize how much I missed local news. Yeah, it's funny how like in the US that happened. So like here in the UK, so I recently, like last year or so, we got rid of our Sky satellite system, and I don't have an area in the loft. We can do. I did buy a little bunny ears for the TV, but it's a bit hit and miss. But like the BBC and ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5 all offer their local news through their app. So in the morning, I'll fire up ITV and just watch the live stream. If I want to watch news, I can do that. Now TV has some of their channels. So it's kind of weird, really, because we have had that for years. So like local news, I think the trouble is with this ABC stuff is because they all got sold off to individual companies and stuff. It's a lot more complicated than it is here in the UK. But I think local news is a very weird thing of trying to get this right for the streaming generation is going to be very hard. And I think you're probably going to see a lot of the local news shifting online. I don't know about you, but my local newspaper that we had, the website is dreadful. The news they do is dreadful because they just went after clicks. There was definitely a drop in quality. The local news still happens. We still have the BBC, so it's kind of something that they have to do. It's, that's kind of part of their remit, and they can do stuff differently because it's not a commercial entity in the same way. But I do think like local news is going to be something that's going to disappear. Keen says, were you able to watch Raw live last week? Yes, I've been loving this European tour with Netflix because I've been able to watch SmackDown and Raw in the evening at a decent time. It's been fantastic. I realized the other week I watched SmackDown live, and I realized I think it was the first time I'd ever seen SmackDown live. Raw was a little bit of but yes, it was quite fun watching it. And like last night, was it last night? No, Friday night. Watching it again. I'm loving the fact of doing it. They've just announced that they're coming back into the UK in August. So I was looking. I can't decide if I'm going to go to the house show, which is closest to me, or if I go to Birmingham for a Raw live. I have been to Raw a few times. It's an extra hour and a half drive, but I can't decide between a house show or Raw. I can't quite decide what the best thing to do. Anyway, Gary, thank you so much. Just found out that Hong Kong Sleep Hit the Last Dance is coming to Disney Plus on August the 21st in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and other Asian territories. And you got to see it twice in theaters, and it was a great film. Disney should stream it worldwide. Yeah, I don't know what movie that one is. When you say The Last Dance, I'm kind of expecting some kind of like 90s either a 1990s like action film or a dance movie. So I don't really know what one that one is. But I'm glad it is, and I'm glad that Disney is picking up. And they're doing this a lot of the time as well, as they do license films and shows from the local area. They do it here in the UK. We've got a load of shows here in the UK that you don't have in other countries, and it makes sense for them to do that. And I'm glad that they are doing that in Hong Kong and Taiwan, etc. Elio says, what lessons do you feel Disney learned that and will apply with the underperformance of Snow White? Miracles can happen, but it does appear that it will bomb. I think they are going to learn a lot from this. First off, I think they might have got the message that live action remakes need to be severely reined in, that audiences are bored of them and don't want to see them. So that's one thing. I think lesson number one. Lesson number two, I can't see them working with Rachel Ziegler or Gal Gadot for a while. The whole situation of what's going on with them, I think Rachel Ziegler has got the whole thing that's gone on. Just, she's an incredible singer, but I think her online antics have caused more problems. I mean, the interview that they did at D23, the way it got twisted from like 3 years ago and was just kept getting churned around, I do think they might be very less likely to do more work with them. I definitely can't see them joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe anytime soon or anything like that. And I think that's going to be I think also they're going to be more aware of the budgets. Also leaks. I think they need to be, because that's one of the biggest problems I think with what happened with Snow White was those pictures that leaked out of what the dwarfs did, what the dwarfs looked like 3-4 years ago. That definitely seemed to be the start of the problem. And also it was all the way through this whole political situation. Disney are trying to separate themselves from it. I do think that if they were doing Snow White today and greenlighting it, it would be done very differently than how they did it. But I think they just want this movie out the way as fast as possible. Bubba Trolling says, do you think David Zaslav will make the best decision to remove and tax write-offs for the future of Warner Brothers? Oh, do you think he made the right decision? I'll put this with Zaslav and Iger and Chapek, really, with this whole thing of, I personally don't like the idea of write-offs of movies. So let's do the movies and shows. So a movie, I feel like if you put out a bad movie and it doesn't do very well, tough. You put it out there, you put it in cinemas, you put it on streaming, it's a single format movie, you leave it there, it goes in the bargain bin that you'd get, the old days of the video shop. We've seen countless bad movies. If you make a bad movie, you put it out there and you leave it. That's what a movie you can get away with. A series is very difficult. I do think especially a show that's been cancelled after one season. In the old days, before the days of streaming, these shows would have been whipped off television and you never would have seen them ever again. So it's not anything new. They just do. Just now there's more noise because of social media. A show that got cancelled in the 80s that never got broadcast again, it never got released on physical media. It was just lost to the ether. And that's been going on for decades. It's nothing new. It's, like I said, people just got... So I think with series, I got a little bit less... there's a little bit different. I do also think... I think cancelling a movie and deleting it before it comes out, I don't have a problem with them doing that, to be fair. Because to me, it's like, if they make the ultimate call of making a movie... getting it ready to go, and then they turn around and go, this is not good enough, and we've either got to spend a load more money on reshoots, because I think that's some of the problem with some of the movies we've seen lately, is trying to fix stuff with reshoots. And like, how much does the budget get out of, let's say, I don't know, Captain America. At what point do they have to keep throwing money on this project until they eventually get to a point of trying to, if it's, basically spending loads of money on making a movie reasonably good enough that it's average rather than terrible. I don't know. I think canceling a movie or a show before it comes out, like they used to with pilots, I don't have a problem with that because we haven't seen it. And that to me is the big thing, especially if they've not put out a trailer or anything like that and they cancel a movie and we've not seen it and it's not been and it's not been brought out. I don't see a problem in them doing it before a movie or a show come out. It's one thing. I do think for movies, you run the dice, you put it out there. I think series are, if a show's been running for 3 or 4 seasons and got an audience and then they cancel it, I wouldn't get rid of it. But if it's been out for 1 season and they delete it, I kind of get it. Keenan says Fortnite is one of the most addictive games for kids. Yes, it is. I get a little bit bored of Fortnite. I jump into it usually. I will jump into it for a bit of a season. If it's slightly Disney connected, I will jump in a little bit more. I did enjoy the last Marvel. That was the first time I'd ever done a season pass with the recent Marvel one, and I actually got to 100 and I unlocked nearly everything. I really enjoyed that season. I unlocked loads of characters and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And then we went into this Japanese one. Baymax was like 100, and I really wanted that Baymax character, but I'm not. I got a little. I think because I've done so much of the Marvel one, I was bored of it, and I will go back to Fortnite. At the minute, I'm jumping between Destiny 2 and WWE. Praise Triple H. Yep. Gary says The Last Dance is about a wedding planner switching careers and joining the funeral parlor business, but he butts heads with his business partner, and it was shown in theaters here in the UK and Canada, and it was very much packed for The Last Dance. I'm glad it did well, and it's also returning to cinemas as well. Cool. Keenan says the underperformance of Snow White could be because of the Latina actress backlash. It is multiple issues. It is the failure of Snow White is a onion. There is many layers to it. There's not just one problem. There is multiple layers to it. Kelly said Cena was allowed to have free reign to go off at fans since the hate train was just online, but also translated to the live crowds. He had to do it. I mean, he had to really sell it in. If they want this to work at Mania, they had to go in hard. And I don't think he's selling the merchandise. He's gonna turn babyface and turn on The Rock or do something by the end before he retires, and he'll retire a babyface again. They're gonna do it. It's just a short-term thing. I think from his point of view, he might be like, I really would have liked to pull the trigger and have a go at this. Gary said Snow White was doomed to fail. I don't know. I don't know if had this movie come out 10 years ago, I think it would have been a really big hit. But I think this movie is just, it feels like that meme of Sideshow Bob just keeps stepping on the rakes every time he moves. And it just seems like it's done bad on that one. Bubba Trolley says, do you think Warner Brothers Discovery will replace the NBA with college basketball? I don't know. I thought ESPN has the rights to college basketball. I thought they've done a long-term deal with them. Warner Brothers Discovery just can't afford all the sports that they wanted to get. So Sina says, what did you think of the new Captain America movie without spoiling it? Because I am planning on watching it. Go see it. Go see it now. We're probably not far off of it actually coming out on digital. I liked it. It is not one of the best Marvel movies of all time. It is enjoyable. It's fun. If you like all the other Marvel movies and all the Marvel shows, if you enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier and you like the Incredible Hulk, watch it. It's fun. I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm going to watch it again when it drops on Disney Plus. I enjoyed it. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It's not bad in any stretch of the imagination. It was pretty good. Elio says, hindsight, do you think Disney should have released Snow White straight to Disney Plus, perhaps with a premiere access, written off before release, or a theatrical release still the best option? I think sending it to Disney Plus would have been probably even worse. I think that would have been worse. I think sending it straight to Disney Plus would have been omitting to the public that they were forced and pushed into making a decision that they didn't want. Because there is that thing as well of if Snow White bombs at the box office, right? Disney can kind of go like, well, we've just kept our normal routine. We just did it. Move along. Didn't do well. Whatever. Move along. If they send it to Disney Plus straight away, it would have said warning flags everywhere that they had decided that it was a flop and it was bad and it wasn't very good. And that would have been more bad PR. I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that they're going to rush Snow White to Disney Plus even faster. Nope. I think they will do the 100 days and treat it exactly the same. But probably what's going to happen, they're probably only going to give us like a day or two's notice for the film. They're just going to go, there it is. And then run off. And I don't think they're going to rush it, because if they do that, they do damage to their other movies down the line. They want to try and retrain audiences. And if they keep dropping stuff quickly, it sends the wrong signal. So I think they will hold on to it. But I think they're just going to, this will be like, it comes out this Friday. They are not going to spend a lot of time advertising on it. As far as writing it off, I think the thing is, it depends. They might have watched this movie, and a lot of people have been saying it's good. I haven't seen it. That it might be like, this is really too good to get rid of, and it is good enough. And we don't, there's that other element of maybe they like, we're not being forced, we're not being manipulated, we're not being basically put in an armbar of being forced to make a decision about a film that the people haven't seen yet. Because that's the other thing as well. Now you're seeing people seeing the movie going, oh, it's not as bad as people were making out, and people are making their own mind up, and it might get a bit of a buzz, but they might also just be along the lines of, let's get it out, get a couple hundred, if they can get $200-300 million off of it, it's gonna help, right? If they say they make 300 million off of it over the next 3 months with digital sales and whatever it is, well, that's still better than deleting it. So I do think that deleting it, had they cancelled it before it come out, they would have got a bit of negative PR, but they probably would have been that other thing as well, that Disney can be pushed around a little bit. I think that might be a problem for them. Karen says it's reported that Captain 4 has made 400 million worldwide, even with the budget being 180. It's at pace to break even. I think that 180 number, I'm not sure of it. Obviously, you've got advertising as well, but that advertising money will then also help with digital release, sales of merchandise. So I did notice in Sainsbury's when I was doing my food shop yesterday, the Captain America toys have already been put in the clearance aisle, which is not great. It was about 23 quid for the Captain America action figure. There was not as much stuff as there was when the movie came out, but they've already slapped a load of it into the clearance section, which is quite quick. Gary says Rachel Zegler could have kept her mouth shut. Snow White would have been a better choice. I don't think it. And this is the thing. It's one layer of it. She was one layer of the problem. It's multiple problems with Snow White. It's not. You can't. People aren't picking just one thing. There was multiple problems with people picking problems with it. Bubble Trial and TNT already has a deal to televise college hoops. Some are standalone, while some of them are sub-licensed for the ESPN. Gary says, I would have thought that Disney would have learned something from Neza 2 by now. Well, I think the problem is, this is a bit of a weird one with this new movie that's doing really well at the box office. There's a few elements. Now, first, some people are questioning how many people actually went and see it. There is the other big thing as well, and I think this is something that people aren't so aware of. Obviously, the situation in China and Asia over the last 30, 40, 50 years has drastically changed. The population obviously has expanded, but also the population there is watching movies more. They've got all the same, they've got movie theaters everywhere. They've got streaming apps. They've got access to movies, and there's a huge audience. And obviously the price of tickets has kept going up. People earning more money, so therefore, they're more in line with the US and European numbers. Having been out to China and Asia on multiple occasions, I have spent quite a bit. Probably spent about 5-6 weeks traveling around China over the last 15 years. A lot of people have a stereotypical view of what China and Asia and stuff is like, and there's just as you walk down the street in Shanghai and you could be in London or New York or Sydney. And I think people don't quite get it. So I do think the whole thing of this movie, in the Chinese box office getting bigger and bigger, it makes sense because there's more and more disposable income, more and more people going to cinemas, more and more people watching movies. The business there now realizing they can make money from movies. I think we're going to see more Chinese movies doing even better at the box office. You've also then got the international box office, where I think people are now much more willing to take a chance. I think the world is changing. Hollywood hasn't got the same iron grip on the box office that it used to have. And the rest of the world, I do think, there's going to be a big rise in people looking for content that's not made in America. And China's, it's if you get and I think also animation works even better when it's because they can dub it to different languages, and it works a lot better than but I mean, I was watching Hong Kong action films and stuff like that 20 plus years ago with Jackie Chan movies and Jet Li and stuff. It's just grown, so now you've got new generations of stuff coming in. But it is a very thing, I think, with how all this comes in. The one and integrate. There's no way to check if the box office numbers that China releases are real, or autocratic regimes tend to lie a lot. There is that element, but at the same time, there's this. I completely agree that there is the chance that this could be manipulated, but at the same time, you've got 1.5 billion people living in China that all have got much better lives, have disposable income, have access to movies, and want to see content. There's a massive audience there. So why wouldn't a movie the audience is bigger in China than it is in America? So why wouldn't a movie that does really connects with the audience do really well there? For me, there's that thing of parallel, but there's why movies are gonna grow, people doing stuff and wanting to enjoy watching movies, that spreads in India and stuff. But also I do think the currency rates as well with China are the cost of the yuan to the dollar, etc., has been going up. I believe when I googled this the other day, I think it's a cinema ticket in China now is equivalent to maybe $5-6. So obviously that's kept creeping up. So now if a movie does really well and enough people go see it, it does jump up the numbers a lot. Let's see what we've got here. Elio says that's an excellent point. What about going through theatrical release? About going through with it. They did blink though with keeping press away during the premiere. Yeah, they did. They kept them away. I think they did slightly pull back on their advertising. I had a few friends kind of saying, "Oh, they're not advertising. It's been on buses, it's been on TV, it's been in the supermarket." They are doing a big PR spin for it. The simple truth is they didn't send the stars out to do interviews with the press. That's what they did, and they've just let that go. And I think that's probably for the best. Keenan says Snow White might be hit or miss, but you never know until the end of the theatrical release window. Yes, you don't necessarily know, but you usually have a good indication. Week 1, obviously, is a big one. Week 2 and week 3 how big that drop off is the big thing. The Lion King and the Mufasa made a profit. Oh yeah, they did all right. It's kind of weird though. If you actually look at it, it made 700 million. It's still half of the Lion King, so still not great. But I think we all. I thought the Mufasa movie was going to be 200-300 million. I was so wrong on that movie. Gary said I skipped Captain America 4 in favor of Nazir 2 on release day. Both premiered on the same day. Yeah, that could be it. Bubbatron says, what do you think the future is of Max and Warner Brothers Discovery? I think they're going to sell parts of it off. I think Max could end up getting swallowed up by Comcast or will merge with Paramount. There's going to be something happening there. Caleb says, it would be wise not to scapegoat Rachel Ziegler since Disney live action fatigue is real and worse than superhero fatigue since the live action films were never beloved. Like I said, it's an onion. Snow White is an onion. It's not an apple. It's an onion, and it's got many layers. Billy says, do you think the live action remakes would have a better reputation if they'd not made so many in the last few years? Yeah, I think they overcooked it. They went bonkers. The guy that used to run Disney live action just went crazy. They were churning out so many, and it doesn't help as well with Peter Pan and Wendy, Pinocchio, Lady and the Tramp. Those all have watered down the effects of that. Plus, Snow, all the problems that they have with the Little Mermaid, that is fed into Snow White. That's the thing as well. That all that controversy just got passed straight into Snow White, and it was all just one big thing. It is a bit messy. Gary says the next big MCU movie is May. Yep. So the next big one is Thunderbolts. Obviously, we've still got a few more episodes of Daredevil to go yet. Right. Okay. So last call for questions before I wrap it up for the day. I'm just going to check. I think we're still a few weeks away from Easter. Yes. So we're going to have a few more. The only week we won't, probably April the 20th, we won't do a live stream for Easter, but we'll be carrying on with the thing as per usual. Right. To wrap up for today, big thank you again to everyone that joined in and sent in questions in advance. Also, a big thank you to everyone in the live chat. So we've got Caleb, Keenan, Matt, so Suna, Bubba Trolling, seeing if I haven't forgotten anyone, the one and only Tinkerbell, Miles, Elio. Also, big thank you for Derek for your super chat. Thank you very much. Let's see. Thank you to Miles. Gary, thank you so much for your continued support. I think that's everyone. If I've missed you, I do apologize. Yes, so in terms of the clocks changing, ours doesn't go back until when do ours? So next week, British summertime resumes. So next week, Sunday show should be back on normal schedule in the United States. Because technically I'm still on schedule. I'm still on my normal time. It's just America did its own crazy thing. But yeah, so yeah, the clocks change here in the UK next Sunday. So we'll be back onto normal time. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys later. Talio, Tulu, Talio.